Hello, everyone. My name is Wes Asmal. Welcome to another episode of Tooways to Skin a Cat, a show where we talk career experiences, entrepreneurship, and investments. The main aim is to show that there's more than one way to be successful other than just climbing the corporate ladder. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and the show will be available on podcast by tomorrow. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. If you're joining us live, drop a one in the comments so that we know we're not talking to ourselves. And if you're watching the recording, drop a two in the comments. My guest for this week is Justin Duveen, a chartered accountant that helps businesses find hidden cash and is also involved in artificial intelligence. Justin, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Wes. Lovely to be here. Thank you for the opportunity and great to chat to you.
Let's jump into the meat of the discussion. Tell us your story. Where do you come from? And even outside of work, who is Justin Duveen? Give us that backstory.
Okay, sure. I grew up in the beautiful city of Durban. Went all the way through school there, went to Westfall Boys, went to a year of University of Natal, Durban, and then my folks would always wanted to move to Cape Town, so we all moved on to this side. And yeah, I have to say it's been an amazing experience. Cape Town is a beautiful place, very cosmopolitan. You meet lots of people from all over the world. There's lots of outdoor activities, which I love. So I'm very happy here. I then completed my BCom and did postgraduate at UCT. And thereafter, I was planning on taking a year off. So I wanted to go travel the world. I was told I'd be able to write the auditing exam, or rather, I'd be able to write the 3 board exams at that point. But there was an issue with they weren't sure at UCT if I could write the auditing one. So I thought, well, auditing doesn't change that much. If I go on a trip for a year and come back and write it and then start articles, that would be fine. But like 3 weeks before the end of the year, they had the psychic come to talk to us and they said, oh, no, you can't write any of the board exams if you don't have articles signed up. So in a mad scramble, I had to run and get articles and managed to get accepted by a company called Greenwoods, which is a medium-sized chartered accounting firm now called Baker Tilly Greenwoods, which was actually a really good blessing in disguise because although it's not such a well-known brand at that point, we got a lot of responsibility as an audit clerk. So you got to meet directors of companies and look in depth in whole various areas, not just auditing, also financial analysis, tax planning, all that type of stuff. So it was a very well-rounded experience. You also got to talk to very senior individuals, so I got a bit more comfortable after the initial nerves, and it really helps later. I always wanted to travel, as I said, so my aim then was to go to London after articles. So straight after articles finished, I had to try and wangle one of those 2-year working holiday visas, which took a little while, and then I managed to get over to London. So while I was there, I thought, I'm here to have as much fun as possible and to make as much money as possible. So how do you do that? And in the investment banking side is where all the money is. So when I went to speak to the recruitment agents, they all said, you don't come from at that point a big 5. We can't get you in. So I thought, well, there's lots of jobs and not enough people. Let me schmooze a few recruitment agents. So I made an effort to try and meet some for coffee so they could actually see me face to face and understand a little bit about me and my background. And hopefully that way get an opportunity. And actually it worked. I managed to get a contract at Barclays Global Bank. And that was an eye-opening experience. We used to have scientific calculators and we had to calculate the portfolio admin fees. So the fees Barclays Bank charged their clients, and the value of the portfolio wouldn't fit on a scientific calculator, and it was in pounds. So the numbers were just mind-blowing. But once you got into the investment banking side, they see you've got that on your CV. It's really good, opens every door. So from there, I basically worked at a new investment bank supermarket of funds, which was called Co-Funds. So essentially you think about it like Sanlam, Old Mutual, Allen Gray, and you go to one place and you can pick a fund from each of them. You've got one statement. So that was new. So it was setting up all the investment management systems for them. And I ended up staying there for about 3 years, managed to wangle to stay on extra in London and traveled the world a lot while I was there. It was an amazing experience, as well as saved a lot of cash, bought a house in West Beach, which was great. And then came back to Cape Town. I'd had enough. London's awesome if you want to go out and enjoy things, but it's very grey, very cold. So, it can get you a bit down if you're not one of those people who like going out and just doing things to, find happiness in other things. but there's a lot to do there. And also it's really easy to travel to other countries, especially if you arrange a multi-entry Schengen visa, which really helps. So then I came back, started working for Sanlam as a contractor in their Sanlam IT department, which was really interesting. I learned a lot about how IT works and went down into the data center and saw these like robotic tape machines that take the tapes out and put it into the tape reader so the mainframe can read it. It was quite futuristic back in that day. Not anymore, though, unfortunately, with the new robots coming out. It's pretty scary. So then I was at Sanlam for quite a while. They couldn't hire me because I was a pale male and BE was coming in at those days. So I was told I could only be a contractor. After staying there for a while, I realized I'd been in a sort of a project finance type role. So, going into these huge organizations and being a tiny cog in the wheel, where I wanted to be a little bit more like you and, manage the whole finance department and IT under it, and also manage payroll and get all of that experience. So there was an opportunity at Transnet back in those days, which I managed to land as the finance manager at the Cape Town multi-purpose terminal, which is really interesting as well. So that was a lot of the activity-based costing side. And while I was in UK, I studied SEMA, so I learned a lot more about how to do activity-based costings and all of that type of things. So we could do standard pricing for our clients and show them all the different drivers of cost, so they also understood like why the price was what it is, which really helps in negotiations. Transnet was an amazing place. They put CAs in all the terminals, in all the port terminals to run them. They were very rigorous on best practice and getting sort of all the big accounting firms to come and teach us procurement best practice, risk best practice, auditing best practice, internal control best practice. So it was a wonderful place to learn, and I learned a huge amount there, and I'm very thankful for the experience. While I was there, I then developed a medical device, something completely different with an ENT. It was basically a disposable humidifier. So when you breathe out against a pane of glass, so it steams up. So essentially, we all breathe out fully humidified air. And there's a technology that's in the ventilator system now, which used to be the humidifier you plugged in and filled up with water, which gets moldy and causes all sorts of problems, where they've come up with this filter that absorbs the moisture from your exhaled breath and then releases it. So they just put this filter in the breathing circuit instead. So we took that technology into a mask. So it was a sleeping mask. At that point where you're not feeling well, you're breathing through your mouth, and this really helps soothe and introduce humidified air, and it was disposable and very cheap. So I patented that. I developed it together with the ear, nose, and throat specialist. We had designs done, got a venture capitalist in. That was a pretty amazing experience. So the whole outlook was I knew absolutely nothing about medical, never been in it before. But I thought some of the smartest people actually take an idea and then license it out to big guys. And then the big guys have got these huge distribution channels they could plug into. So that was the whole strategy, was like the Unilever approach, which is essentially outsourcing innovation and buying it in on a license fee. So it's like we all win. So that was really interesting. I went to China with that, visited Beijing, two of China's top 10 pharmaceutical companies, also went to the USA, visited some big manufacturers there, went to a medical trade show in Germany. So a lot of traveling was done, which is one of my passions. I love traveling. It was amazing to see those places and meet new people. And then eventually, when there was a big deal on the table, the people who had got into bed with, which are the venture capitalists, tried to turn very nasty, and in fact did. So everything blew up. And 6 years of my life ended at that point. So I had the choice of fighting them, which would have cost, it's told somewhere between 500 and a million rand, 500,000 and a million. And I'd just be put back into the same place, in an untrustworthy place. So I thought, the best thing to do is just walk away, learn a big lesson. So as a warning to everyone else, please make sure it's always easy to grab money when people offer it to you. Be very careful. If you go into business with someone, this is a serious long-term relationship. It's basically a marriage. Please also look what happens if stuff goes pear-shaped. We're all very positive and optimistic in the beginning, but it's much better to decide those rules of if things don't happen before they happen, if you know what I mean. So thereafter, did some contract work for various clients, went back to Sanlam for a while, And recently, I've actually started another company which is using Mr. Big Piece. So in 2015, I started with a few other co-founders a new company. I'm not sure you guys might have seen the screens in the back of Uber cabs, those touch screens that you could interact with. So that I started as the CEO and with three other co-founders, and that did exceptionally well. The same strategy was, how do we hook into a very big player? Uber was the king at that point and growing dramatically. So we were hoping, okay, well, let's become Uber's in-vehicle entertainment partner. And we managed to get some venture capital funding on various stages. As we grew, we got more funding. We managed to get tablets from Vodacom on a 2-year deal, just paying a few $100 a month each with data. And we put a content management system on there and then started selling adverts. So that, again, was very interesting. I had to learn sales and learning how to knock on doors, talk to new people. Very nerve-wracking in the beginning, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And after a while, you're saying it without even thinking. And it was a really fun business because we actually partnered with Uber. They did a survey and they came to approach us saying, we know you're doing this. And so before we launched, we went to Uber and said, look, we're trying to do this. Would you like to partner with us? And they said, yes, you can do a launch in Grahamstown for the festival. So we were like, it's a lot of money. And then what are we going to do after that? So we were like, thanks, but no thanks. And then we just launched anyway. And then they knocked on our door saying, we hear you've launched. We want that list of all the drivers with the screens in, because there was just a few out of their many thousands. So we were like, are they contacting us to remove all the screens? And they said, actually, well, they wanted to do a survey of all the riders to see what they thought. So we thought, well, okay. And they did the survey and it came back incredibly positive, thankfully, which led to a partnership with them. So we got a partnership with Uber here, which then led to a partnership in Uber in Europe, which is everything out of the US. Very exciting going to visit them, seeing the Uber offices, meeting people. And then they asked us to launch in Ukraine. So they gave us 3 months to launch in a strange country with a strange culture, with a strange language, which was also an interesting adventure. So we had to do a few cartwheels and backflips. And that was, amazing place. So sad what's happening. Awesome people, such lovely people as well. It was an absolutely amazing experience. What happened there? I'd raised a lot of investment. By that point, we were growing. We were in Kenya, we were in Ukraine. We had screens in Joburg, quite a lot, almost 1,000 screens in South Africa, in Joburg and Cape Town. And we were looking at opportunities in London and Dubai. And we had big VCs sniffing, and one of the other VCs had promised a lot of money. He paid half to then do an offshore structure. So we set up the offshore structure. And because now things were growing so well, we hired experts in to replace us as the co-founders to kind of take over South Africa while we carried on growing the company. And we set up the structure, then asked for the other half of the investment, which was many millions of rands. And they kept us waiting. A few months went by. I met him, went over to Dublin to meet him. We talked and met with some unbelievably intelligent guys from Cambridge who were doing a mesh networking play. It was unbelievable technology. Looked me in the eye, shook my hand, said, don't worry, the money's coming. A month later, still didn't come. And then he admitted he had spent it on a new crypto play. And that was the first crash of crypto. And he lost all his money. So now I had to run back to our investors saying, I'm terribly sorry. I've hired all these super expensive resources and we don't have the funds to pay for them. So they then had to choose who to keep. And if you had to choose me or these other super duper experts who had, even better credentials and experience, they decided to back those horses and said goodbye to another co-founder and I. So that unfortunately ended in that kind of mistake. So please make and learn from mine mistakes and don't spend money before you have it. Make sure it's in the bank. It's a really important lesson I learned. As well as running that business, the bigger it grew, we used to pay the Uber drivers a monthly amount. We had to pay for screens and we had to pay for software. So as the base grew, the overhead grew dramatically. So, our overheads were over $1.5 million a month at one point. So you literally, as an entrepreneur, wake up every month going, wow, I have to bring in another $1.5 million and the team together. So it's really stressful, but it was an amazing experience. I also learned a lot about cash flow then, because cash flow comes and goes. And as your business grows, your numbers start getting very big, and then they can change very quickly depending on various circumstances. And as a business owner, many things come out of the blue and change the game dramatically on you. So I was very lucky to have some wonderful mentors at that point, as well as some of the investors who gave me a lot of advice. I read a lot of business books and other CAs and friends. And thanks to their help and advice, I learned a lot of tricks that can help manage cash flow and make cash appear when you desperately need it. So I actually have now decided to start a company helping businesses and helping CAs learn these tricks. I realized for CPD, we all have to continuously learn, and they love our auditing and our financial standards and all of those, which are great, but we also need to do helpful stuff that makes us shine to our bosses and really makes a difference in the companies we work for. So I've tried to position this resource to help with that. So I've written a new book as well. It's basically cash boosting strategies, and it's filled with practical real world examples to show you different strategies you can use in businesses to make money appear or tweak various levers within the business, such as stock levels, how to calculate optimal stock levels, how do you look at payment terms. There's a huge amount of money sitting if you manage to wrangle different payment terms, as well as looking at whether payment terms can't be done, maybe a discount instead, how to negotiate and what to say to get these things. It's all in the book. So yeah, I'm hoping that'll help a lot of people too.
So you've given us a little bit of, I was going to ask you about how we find hidden cash.
Yes.
Does it work in someone's personal capacity, or is it purely for business?
At this point, well, the tips and tricks are negotiating ways to save money or change payment terms. So whether you're an individual or a business, these could apply to you. It has been written with more of a business focus. So it's meant for CEOs or business leaders of small and medium businesses to help them.
And if people want to find out more, they can check it in the book.
Yes.
For the audience, we will be responding to questions towards the end. So please add your questions to the comment section now so that we don't miss them. Sorry, you wanted to say something.
No, I was, yeah, so essentially the plan is also, well, I currently have masterclasses as well. So you join me for an hour and we go through a particular masterclass focusing on a particular area, which is how to get cash from your customers faster, for example, or how to cut costs, where to look, where to focus first, and what impacts different levers can have on your business. And then, minimal cuts, maximal cuts, how to do it effectively. I've actually been through many retrenchments in organizations and seen some done really well and some not done so well. And it's quite amazing the different impact it has on profitability and productivity, the way you handle things like that, as well as like teaching some procurement best practice, all of that type of stuff, which really helps.
I want to switch over a little bit to artificial intelligence.
Okay.
How are you currently seeing AI help businesses and people, even from a cash flow perspective?
Okay, so AI is very interesting. So AI has essentially been trained on a language model. So it's designed to predict the next word, but it's also learned context. So in other words, if you give it context of what you're trying to achieve in what environment, it can be exceptionally helpful. As well as I learned, as you give it a role, even your own role, you're a finance manager or a chartered accountant, your task is to analyze this data set and reveal insights. So because you've given it a role, given it a task, and given it context, and more context, the better. So if you can tell it more about the data set, such as this company operates in this industry, please perform a SWOT analysis against industry benchmarks. It understands all of that. So if you think about it, it swallowed all this information and it has it accessible at its fingertips to tap into and help you with. But you have to instruct it correctly in order to get those abilities to shine through. So there's a huge amount of value to be gained if you learn how to prompt it, which is called advanced prompting. And then there's stuff called zero shot, which is basically saying, please give me an answer and I'm not going to show you any examples, versus few shot, where you kind of say, I'm looking for you to help me with this problem. This is kind of the output I'm looking for, to give it a lot of help of sort of what layout, what style, what level of detail you want. And then that also really helps it understand exactly what you're looking for, and then it'll give it to you. So the next thing is ask it to think step by step. So just like us, if we think step by step, it's much easier for us to break a big task into mini tasks. And then if you say, show me step by step how to achieve this, that's really helpful. It also gets the model to be a lot more accurate because it's thinking things through step by step. And you can also ask it as an expert, whatever expert, a copywriter, a CEO, please review your own work for validity, accuracy, completeness, and provide an analysis. So by doing that and using some of these tricks, you can transform the sort of output and value the model can give you, as well as remove many of the hallucinations they talk about, which is essentially the model not giving you all the truth. So yes, they're exceptionally powerful. I highly recommend learning how to use them and harnessing their power, because they effectively speed you up. So your productivity goes through the roof. And yeah, the more you learn how to use it, and sometimes even going through it with it step by step, you'll realize its power and how much it can help.
What else do you see coming in terms of artificial intelligence? Like, what should we be looking out for that maybe is not front and center yet?
I would say probably the best thing would be the intersect between data analysis and AI, and then possibly sales as well would be very helpful. So if you try and think about which client should the sales team visit this next month, or which clients and why. So looking at their order history. So from the data side, you start looking at, the standard stuff the data analysts use, like orders, order frequency, order values, and as well as returns. You can look at what stock is bought with what stock at what time of the year. So you now have the ability to feed your sales guys extra information to help them upsell or cross-sell their existing clients at various times of the year with various products or promotions, whether it's Valentine's Day, for example, or Black Friday, or a quarter end or something like that, or an anniversary of a company. There's often ways to use AI as well to analyze data in a much smarter way, and then real time give feedback to a sales agent or that type of stuff. The other thing as well is AI is taking over a lot of customer service roles, I'm noticing. So you can train it with all of your product information as well as previous questions and answers. You can give it a role as an expert business development and give it a style of communication as well. You can also tell it to pass up to a human if it can't answer the question. So as a first line of support and help, or even as a website sales agent, I think there's huge opportunity there. And yeah, so there's lots of things happening with AI.
Lots to come.
Yeah, and also very helpful to do presentations. You can create presentations for your board or for your seniors very easily with AI now using Microsoft Copilot. So yeah, it's really helping speed things up, making accountants a lot more creative if you want as well. There's DALL-E or Midjourney, which are the image generators. You can go and play with those and ask it to generate an image of anything you want, and they're getting better and better. So you can pretty much now get any kind of image you want and a lot of amazing output. So yeah, it's a very awesome tool to use. And if you think about it, AI is not really good. It is coming to change the world in the next few years, but unfortunately our choices are either ignore it or adapt and harness this power. Because if you think about competing, if you're competing with another CA who's learned this and that are now 20-30% quicker than you, it's very difficult to compete with them. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in keep learning. So yeah, this is a big deal, the AI, I've noticed. And the more I play, the more astounded I've been by the power. So yeah, glad I'm spending some time learning it. And hopefully you find some help from the tips I gave earlier.
You've shared a lot of knowledge with us in this discussion, but this is one question that I like to ask all my guests. What is one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
don't be afraid to fail. So in the US, they've got a lovely culture where if you fail, they actually commend you for trying, because actually trying takes bravery, takes courage, and it's very difficult. So one of the things is the culture here is very different, and same in Europe. It's failure is frowned upon and very much feel like a failure if you fail, rather than, a lot of the Thomas Edison once said he didn't fail. He found 100 ways that didn't work in order to get to the one that did for the light bulb. So we have to fail in order to learn. And if we go back to when we were kids and we remember learning how to walk, even how many times a baby stands up, falls down, stands up, falls down, stands up, falls down. And that is essentially failure. And that's how we learn anything as a beginner. Well, with its dancing, we'll be failing a lot. And having that mindset of being open to become a beginner, that beginner's mindset of accepting failure, knowing it's part of the process, trying to learn through all of it. That would be my best advice. Be brave, do it, step out of your comfort zone. It's okay to fail. Just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, carry on. Tomorrow's another day, and you'll be better at it having tried. And then the other big lessons, cash is king. So watch your overheads, watch who you lend money to. There's big problems in the world coming, unfortunately, financially. We're all huge amounts of debt everywhere. So, please be careful and check the credit worthiness of all your customers regularly. There's an article on Find Hidden Cash if you want to learn how to do that as well. And good luck. And we wish everyone all the best.
I think that's a good way to. But any last few words from you, or anything we didn't discuss that you'd like the audience to know?
Yes, actually, as a thank you for all of the listeners for tuning in today, I'm willing to offer you a free copy of the new book. If you just comment in the LinkedIn post about the LinkedIn Live, please send me the book, and I'll make sure to send you a copy of it for free. So thank you very much for listening in. I hope you found this helpful. Thank you, Tooways. It was amazing to chat with you. And hopefully we can chat again soon.
Awesome. The show has been live on YouTube and should be available on podcast by tomorrow. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast and you feel that it's added value, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on that notification bell to get automatically notified when the next episode comes out. Justin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Two Ways to Skin a Cat. Goodbye.